Hello and welcome to Face to Face. I'm Anna Kalczyńska and joining me tonight is Michał Broniatowski, Editor-in-Chief, TVP World. Good evening, Michał.
Good evening.
Let us start with Donald Trump's most relevant nomination from Warsaw's perspective, of course. Poland will welcome new U.S. ambassador to Poland, Thomas Rose, a journalist, businessman, former publisher of the Jerusalem Post, a former senior advisor to Mike Pence, and not a newcomer to TVP World, we must say. So what do we know of him?
We know of him that the newspaper he was a publisher of, the Jerusalem Post, is one of the most important newspapers in Israel, publishing in English, and it's a sort of voice of Israel for the rest of the world. So he is a person who definitely knows what's going on in the world, and it's very good news that Poland will be a host for a person who has such knowledge. We don't have to wonder about it. It's clear from his statements here and there that he is a MAGA person, which means strong supporter of Mr. Trump.
He wouldn't be probably Donald Trump's pick for the nomination.
I'm sure he must have known for some time that he would be an American envoy in Poland, but it didn't stop him from making statements which are a bit surprising. Well, on the one hand, he praised President Duda, whom he met in December. He called him America's greatest friend in Europe. Mm-hmm. Quote, well, not great enough to invite him for the inauguration of the president. Giorgia Meloni from Italy was
granted this honor.
Yes. But what is more striking is his interview he gave here in Poland to opposition-leaning TV station, in which he said, I will quote it because this is quite stunning. He said about upcoming presidential election in Poland that, quote, it will decide whether Poland wants to move closer to the center of power in the European Union, or whether Poland wants to remain a proud sovereign country that fulfills its alliance obligations. It's clear support of the opposition candidate who is supporting a proud and sovereign country. This is on words, of course, because every future Polish president will be supporting proud and sovereign country, sovereign Poland. I would say he is presenting here a sort of a disdain to the European Union and Polish ambitions to be an important member of the EU. It immediately positions him as a supporter of one side of a political spectrum in Poland, which is not a very good thing for an ambassador. We'll see what he says from now on. It
will be interesting to ask Mr. Ambassador in Spain.
Exactly, because he's been a visitor here in TVP World, and we will welcome him here again, of course, and ask him about his political views about the situation in Poland. We'll see if he's equally outspoken.
That also suggests perhaps a repositioning of Poland in the EU, right? And perhaps it's a downplay to divide European Union. But as Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, he will ensure that our interests are represented in Poland and always put America first. So perhaps this is the vision of America presenting its vision to the world.
Poland has several firsts, and I think the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs will know by its own to decide what are the main directions of the policy, of Poland's international policy. Definitely America will be important, but not the first.
All right, so this is one topic. Now let's go to what some call a divorce, meaning Eastern European countries taking a final step in desynchronizing their power system from Russia's electricity grid. The final phase of this decoupling from Soviet-era system will take place and will happen finally on Sunday. Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia will finally switch from the Russian Bell grid. So apart from the symbolism of the whole operation, the process also encircles the Kaliningrad exclave and leaves it without power being transferred through neighboring countries.
Yes,
so
but
now experts are expecting Moscow's response.
You know,
What can it be?
I think that Kaliningrad region will be able to survive without direct line via Lithuania, because there is a underwater cable from Russia through the Baltic Sea, and they have their own electric generation there in Kaliningrad. The thing is, the symbolism of that is cannot be clearer. You know, even in such part of the economic life of the country, well, in fact, part of life, of everyday life of any country, in this case, decoupling from the former system of the Soviet Union. It took them 34 years to get rid of that. It's not the final link, because there are still rails, and Baltic countries are in broad gauge, which means 9 centimeters wider than rails in the rest of Europe. So it will take time to decouple this link to Russia. However, the newly built Rail Baltica, the superfast train from, in fact, from Helsinki via Poland to Berlin, is already built in
large
small
part.
Yes,
In
small
Poland, it's
dock.
already ready. However, I remember speaking to Lithuania's official, and they're still grasping with it. It's not yet ready. All right, so that won't leave Kaliningrad an isolated island.
But
so
it will
far.
be a very, very strong political signal towards Russia, and fears are that they will somehow retaliate, probably doing same things as they have been doing over the last 18 months, during which there were 10 cables cut by anchors from ships sailing innocently on the surface of the Baltic Sea. And at the moment, one of the main links between Estonia and Finland is cut. This electric grid, it's not only symbolic, but also very strongly linked to the security of the region.
So what could be the Moscow's response, actually? What can they do? What are the speculations?
Well, they can continue attacking the grid, I mean the undersea cables. I think NATO countries, at least countries around the Baltic Sea, should treat as acts of war with full consequences. I mean, some retaliation or more sanctions or blockade of transport routes, you know, such a blatant breach of international law. And we know they are doing it because Finland managed to arrest a ship which was doing it, and they discovered proof of Russian actions. So countries like Baltics or Finland, who are very blunt in relations with Russia, will start to retaliate.
Because the whole process, the severance process, has been going on since 2007, if I'm not mistaken. So there was time to prepare for hypothetical retaliation from the Russian side, and to also prepare the response.
You know,
now it's
you
not
are preparing
that they are going
the response to something which is which you know that it is a threat. It has been a threat for the last year and a half only. And the threat is increasing because Russia is increasing its hybrid war. Now we know what to expect. It's very difficult to fight against it because it's all happening on the open seas, and you cannot board ships on the open seas. This case in Finland was very interesting because the strait between Estonia and Finland is so narrow that Chinese ship which committed this breach was sailing through Finland waters. That's why Finns were able to board it and find the evidence.
All right, so if all goes well, the three countries will join the European system by the end of the weekend. So now let's move on across the ocean, perhaps, and let's go back to the famous words by Donald Trump. Revolutionary vision, or simply a plan doomed to failure. I'm talking, of course, about the process in Gaza and the new situation that we woke up in, where President of the United States was threatening to annex a part of Gaza and carry out almost an ethnic cleansing. So is Donald Trump serious with proposing that?
It's better to trust him, to believe that he will do what he says. But on the other hand, you can hardly imagine that removal of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip will ever happen because, first of all, neighboring countries don't want to let them in. Secondly,
and it's hard to convince them.
They have been refusing to accept Palestinians since 1948, since the inception of the State of Israel. One of the reasons of a big conflict is the fact that they forced Palestinians to live in refugee camps for all that time. Jews who lived in Arab countries were immediately forced to go to Israel in 1948. It was around 1 million of them. Now there are only 50,000 Jews living in Arabic countries. All the neighbors refused to be hosts to Palestinians who were moved because of the creation of the Israeli state. So the same will happen now. They will not agree. It would be really difficult to convince Palestinians to leave there.
And that would be the second Nakba for them, as they refer to.
Whatever. Forcing people to move even to a promised land would be very difficult, and especially that he's, in fact, I think that the main reason to offer that is not peace, but of course it's part of it, but the main reason is to create Riviera on Middle East. One would call Mr. Trump a developer-in-chief, global developer-in-chief, together with his son-in-law, Mr. Kushner. They want to build buildings, but they forget about the owners of the land there. Most comments about it are that it is a sort of a distraction on the part of Trump, who wants to achieve something else, just throwing such a bombshell that it is a negotiating ploy to convince Hamas to be more conciliatory in peace talks with Israel, or it is another evidence of his imperialistic streak, which he has presented over the last...
Well, but on the other hand, some comments were that nobody came with a sufficiently efficient idea so far. So perhaps the Middle East needs a new idea, and this is one of them.
Of course, this is one of them.
Maybe Donald Trump is just flying a kite. He just wants to test its potential allies and actors in the region.
He is, as I said, developer-in-chief. He's always proposing something which will be good for America remaining first. Perhaps we shouldn't be so critical of the head of state, especially of head of such a huge state. But on the other hand, as proven by his decision to dismantle USAID, the organization which is aimed at international development, his offer to the world is, you want support? Buy it from us. You want our support in making peace in the Middle East? Give us land, and we'll take care of it.
The same goes for Ukraine, for instance.
Yeah, Ukraine, the warnings against Canada.
How about Canada? This is a good example. What's going to happen with its northern neighbor?
You never know, because he talks about tariffs, imposes tariffs, and then 2 days later he says, okay, and we can suspend it for months. Probably it will be forgotten by the time.
So is it
when he says that if they don't comply, they will become 51st state of the U.S. But come on. Does he want to start a war with Canada? Is he going back 250 years back and then doing some sort of, Boston Tea Party, Arebour, which was followed by the war with Britain? It's very difficult to tell what it is, a part of showing off for internal consumption in America, or just representing his real plans, we don't know.
Yes, but on the other hand, it triggers consequences. And for instance, a debate has started in the European Union whether Canada could become a member state here.
This is a joke, but of course, if they want, Europe will accept them immediately.
With open hands.
With open, we already have a free trade agreement with Canada, a part of the name of the organization, which is European. Other problems can be easily overcome.
I remember, Michał, a time when it was Israel which was being discussed, whether it could someday become part of the European Union.
I think it would be a good solution because, first of all, it would make Israeli right-wing leaders probably more reasonable and wanting to make peace with the rest of the Arabic world. But you know, maybe Israel is not going towards becoming a member of the European Union, but at least it is going to become an accepted part of the Middle East from the point of view of his Arabic neighbors. It was started during the first term of Donald Trump with this famous Abraham Agreement, and we will probably see in the near future the similar agreement with the Saudi Arabia.
So now coming back to Poland, after recent talks between the Ukrainian and the Polish presidents in Warsaw, we remember the visits of Volodymyr Zelensky, it seemed that the long-awaited warming in both countries' relations was just around the corner, and here it goes. Andrzej Duda, in a recent interview for the Financial Times, said, "Those people who are fighting with Russia, a lot of them will demonstrate mental problems," suggesting that decommissioned soldiers could contribute to global crimes in a nearby future once the war in with Russia ends. So was it just how to qualify it? Was it a...
I'm not going to qualify the statements of the Polish president, but I can only say that history shows that it's not necessarily true what he said, because, for example, there are many veterans, thousands of them, in the United States because of many wars which were run by the U.S. in the 20th.
We remember Vietnam, Korea.
And yes, and of course there were lots of interesting and dramatic stories shown in various American films, but there was no special increase in crime. Yes, it was the case in the 90s and early 2000 when the veterans of Afghan war were involved in crime world and in mafia actions. But it was not
a social problem.
It was facilitated by the fact that they were left completely alone after they returned home, and because the Russian state in the 90s was, let's call it lightly, a state with certain disarray in which mafia was really flourishing, and mafia needed people who know how to use
guns.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, anyway, it remains to be seen if it was just a blunt awkwardness, or was this
making
else?
this sort of comments which are completely ungrounded, because the war in Ukraine is now 13 years old. There are already thousands of veterans, and there is no increase in crime, if at all, no increase caused by veterans, or any increase of crime on the contrary. It's, I think, not worth thought through meddling into affairs of a friendly country, and I would say the reply of Kiev to that was quite measured, however very, very strong.
So thank you, Michał, very much for your time and your insight tonight. That's all we've prepared in this episode of Face to Face. But please do join us again on Monday, and in the meantime, stay tuned to TVP World for more news and commentary. Thank you for watching.